Hi Jennifer, and thank you for agreeing for this interview and giving us the opportunity to bring to light the workings of One Achieves Foundation and celebrating the Pride Month with us. Now, since we have so much to talk about in so limited time, we have curated certain questions that would make the interview easy to navigate. So, before we begin with the question, I'd like you to introduce yourself and your organization, One Achieves Foundation.
I'm Jennifer Gregg. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the executive director of One Archives Foundation, which is the oldest continuously operating LGBTQ+ organization in the United States. We were founded in 1952, and we started the One magazine, which was the first widely distributed LGBTQ magazine in the country. It ran from 1953 until 1967. And during that time, our founders started collecting archival materials related to LGBTQ history, and that became the One Archives. We gifted those materials to the University of Southern California in 2010, where they remain today. And the One Archive Foundation continues as an independent nonprofit organization supporting the archives, but in addition to that, we have a robust exhibition and K-12 program.
It was so nice to hear about. And so I'd like to know, how does the organization work towards helping the LGBTQ+ community?
So as I mentioned, we have the K-12 and exhibition programs, and our mission really is to keep LGBTQ history visible. And that's a history of yesterday, but the history that is being made today, contemporary issues that the community is working on. And so through our K-12 programs, we have lesson plans about LGBTQ history, moments in pride, movement moments that are shared with K-12 students. And we have an exhibition program. Some of our exhibitions are online. Others take place in person at our gallery, which is in West Hollywood.
So I would like to know, oh, by the way, that the gallery that you talked about sounds so interesting, and I'm sure it's amazing. So I'd like to know, what does Pride Month mean to you, and why should we be celebrating it?
Well, Pride started, as many people know, really as a form of resistance. So in the 50s and the 60s, when the LGBTQ community was really rising up from being more of an underground community, many individuals faced harassment from the police, harassment from society. At that time, an individual could be institutionalized or even jailed for being LGBT. In addition to that, there were masquerading laws where if an individual dressed in clothing that was more traditionally for the opposite gender, they could be arrested under masquerading laws. And so the community really came together after several incidents here in Los Angeles, as well as Stonewall, which many people are aware of, and created Pride. There was actually a group called Pride that started in the late 1960s. It stood for Personal Rights in Defense and Education. There was a newsletter that was put out by the Pride group. That newsletter eventually became The Advocate, which is now a very well-known LGBTQ publication. The Advocate started in 1967 and continues today. So what Pride Month really means to me, and I think historically, is it's to maintain our visibility. It's to continue the road for equality, and it is a form of resistance and activism.
So it's really strange that unfortunately this resistance that people have towards the LGBTQ+ community, this is prevalent in every country or every societal aspect that you talk about. Why do you feel there is so much of resistance towards this community?
I think for several reasons. One is religion. I think a lot of the resistance toward the LGBT community is based in organized religion, which is can be discussed by many. I think there's homophobia that's passed down generationally. I think obviously in different countries outside of the United States, there are laws outside of the LGBT community. There are laws around women, et cetera, that compound, feelings of homophobia, right? Because there are many marginalized groups. And I think in order to combat that, we have to be visible. We have to share the history of the community so people understand that there have been LGBTQ people throughout time, throughout history, in every country across the globe. LGBTQ people have existed. And so by sharing our history, by sharing our stories, by being visible, by sharing who we are, can compound that homophobia.
Absolutely correct. And so if somebody who is an outsider, who is not a part of any organization, so if that person wants to help and contribute towards the struggle of the community, how can they do that?
So we have many allies that support the LGBT community, and I think it's important for LGBT individuals, those who identify as queer, to know their history, know the organizations that exist. I think about obviously One Archives Foundation getting involved, signing up for our newsletter, etc. But there are many other organizations to be aware of, especially here in the US. I think about organizations such as It Gets Better Project, which is a great organization for youth, the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, which is a terrific organization that helps to create GSA programs within schools. There are organizations, within every state in the country, the equality groups, as well as LGBTQ centers. I think it's just really important to get involved. I love the organization PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And that's a terrific organization for allies to become involved with.
Amazing. It's so good to listen about so many organizations that have been doing everything possible to change the mindset of people and change the way the governments have been functioning. So I know it's not an easy task. Like you mentioned, there have been organizations that have started servicing themselves since the 60s, and it's still a struggle. I do see a lot of laws written by the governments that are not really LGBTQ plus community supportive. So what do you feel there are some myths that revolves around the pride community, and if you'd like to burst them?
Oh, I think there are several myths around the LGBTQ community, but we're full members of society. LGBTQ individuals, as I mentioned previously, have been around forever, for ages. And there are, many individuals who have, been very successful in their lives and have made history. And I think that one of the myths is that we're not participating in society, but we're here every day. So I think that it's important for people to realize that, recognize that, and get to know the LGBTQ community, get to know our stories, get to know who we are, get to know colleagues who are openly LGBT, family members, etc. And I think about the legislation across the South here in the United States, from Florida to Texas, all of the anti-LGBTQ legislation that's passing through these state legislators, laws that are going into place. And I think it's really important for our allies to stand with us.
I believe something like this is not a job of one person or one organization. It's something that can only change when masses support it. So Jennifer, I really want to know what has been your personal motivation for working for this cause, if it's okay for you to share on screen.
Oh, no, of course. So I started volunteering at an organization in Washington, D.C. called Whitman Walker Clinic. I was a co-facilitator of a lesbian parenting group there when my daughter was young. And I was actually in the for-profit arena prior to that. And I saw a position posted and thought, I can do a lot more for our community. So I moved over to the nonprofit sector, and I've been within the nonprofit sector ever since, working in LGBTQ, social and racial justice. And that's really what motivated me, I think, not only being a member of the community, but also a parent within the community, and really looking at, different ways in which I could myself personally be supportive, but also work for organizations that are doing a lot within the space.
It's so amazing, and especially listening to that you have a daughter, and it's so good that she is being raised in such a great environment where there is no restriction. There every type of diversity is equally respected, and it's equally have the equally weightage. So this reminds me of news that I heard where I believe in Florida, the legislation was passed that for kids below 5, I guess, the teachers are not allowed to talk about this community. So how do you feel it's important for the kids, especially the kids, to know about this community, and what difference would it make?
No, but I would just add, please visit us at onearchives.org. Check out our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at One Archives. And the organization that I mentioned, the archives at the One Archives at the USC libraries, it's the largest collection of archival materials in the world. It's an amazing space, so I would encourage folks to check that out as well.